last all night. She can turn a small spark into a burning light. She can take a candy, roll it on a tongue.
Hi, this is JP from JP Ross. I'm going to tie a poor boy's woolly bugger today. This is a fly that's going to have a Marabou tail. In this case we're going to do olive. And we are going to have a chenille body. This is a chenille that's got a little bit of olive kind of crystally stuff in it. As you tie this stuff, you'll find that there's some great materials out there that you can use that vary a little bit. I am also going to use a hackle, and in this case I'm going to use this material right here. It's actually called Schlappen, and Schlappen is that stuff on a rooster near its tail. When you see pictures of chickens and roosters and stuff, they've always got these big kind of bountiful feathers that are coming off near their tail and stuff like that. That's Schlappen. It's not regular saddle hackle. This stuff's a little bit more webby, and that's pretty much all I ever use on my woolly buggers. And also the hook. The hook is going to be a Tiemco 300, and we're going to tie it on a size 4, but you can go anywhere from you could go down to a 16 if you want to do a little mini woolly bugger, and you can go up to a 4 or maybe even a 2 if you wanted to. And let's get started. Okay, so as usual we are going to start by putting our hook into our vise, like you can see there, and we're going to attach our thread. And in this case I'm actually going to use some red thread, and I'll attach that thread right around in the middle, a little bit past the front. I'm going to trim off the excess. Like so. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some weight to this hook by adding in some wire. And the way I'm going to do this, and remember I am trying to teach this fly so that it's easy to tie, and you can do it real quickly. So I just added in my weight, and now I'm going to bend it over, and I'm going to wrap that weight in again, and I'm just going to wrap that right down like so, and then I'm going to overlap it again. You don't have to like go crazy trying to keep that wire real secure, because you're going to put so much stuff over this, it's not going to matter. So I'm just going to kind of go back and forth and just kind of noose that in like so, and then I'm going to end back down at the tail. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Marabou feather, okay? And in this case I am going to tie this thing in pretty sparse, or not very thick. You can do really big poofy tails if you want to. I don't like to do them that way because I like them to kind of swim and just have a hint of that they're kind of this buggy, minnowy, swimmy thing. So again, I'm going to pinch this to try to gauge how long I want it, and I want this tail to be about as long as the hook, the whole hook. Okay, so I'm going to pinch it with my right hand, and I am right-handed. You can see the pressure I'm putting on my thumb, and then I'm going to put it down where I want it, and I've got my thread back over here coming down just in front of the barb. So I'm going to lay it down on top, and I'm going to switch hands and pinch it with my other hand, and I am going to just tie this tail in like so. Now remember, this is the poor boy woolly bugger, so we're going to make this thing just about as fast as we can. So all this junk here, we're just going to wrap that right in, and as I move up just a little bit, I'm going to kind of pre-gauge this. I'm going to cut off my junk, the quill, and I'm going to cut that way further back from the hook eye so that I have room, and I'm just going to wrap all that stuff right in. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to put in my Schlappen hackle. So here it is. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this fuzz that's on the bottom. And the way you do that is you just grab the material, and on one side of the quill and on the other, you just take it and you pull it backwards. And you take off that kind of fluffy stuff. And then I'm just going to trim my quill like that so that it's kind of easy and manageable. Now I'm going to tie this in from the tip. Okay, the tip of the hackle. Because the hackle barbules are actually going to get longer as they go towards the base of the quill. So I want this to flare that way so that it's got this big hackle up here. An idea, you can see how it's kind of tapered. So we're going to tie this in by the tip. I'm going to just hold it, and I'm just going to get used to kind of working these materials real gently. I'm just going to wrap that in. I'm not really even going to pinch it real close like I did with the tail. Trim off that stuff and just go ahead and wrap some more, make sure everything's in there nice and secure. And then I'm going to put in my chenille body. So here's my chenille. It's maybe 4 or 5 inches long. And I am going to pull out the actual puffy stuff of the chenille to expose the core. I am going to, again, hold that stuff. I'm going to hold it right at the edge of where I want to tie it in. And I'm going to pinch it onto the hook. And I'm going to wrap in, so sorry about grabbing the hook point there. I am going to wrap in that core, and then I'm going to bring that right up close to the front. Now this is really easy. So you kind of work backwards. You do the tail, then you do the hackle, and then you do the chenille body. And I'm going to wrap this chenille body, and this is kind of a trick. I'm not going to wrap it real tight. I'm actually going to kind of barber pole wrap this chenille. Okay? So I'm going to leave a little bit of a space in between. It's probably maybe a millimeter. I'm going to get up here and I'm going to hold it with my right hand, and I'm going to pass this thread over with my left hand, even though I'm right hand dominant, maybe 5-6 times. It's still hanging there. Just to be sure, I'm going to make a couple more wraps with my right hand. Trim that stuff off. And now I'm going to grab my hackle. Now remember, we put those little spaces, you can kind of feel them with your finger, that there's that barber pole thing going on there. The reason that I do that is because when I grab this, I'm going to grab this with my hackle pliers. I'm going to grab it by the quill, just like that. And it's also important that I grab it straight, and I don't grab it at a perpendicular angle. I want to grab it just as though my hackle pliers are an extension of the hackle. And now when I wrap this, I'm going to wrap this hackle, and it's going to kind of automatically go in between the barber pole or that chenille. Now you can persuade this stuff. This Schlappen is really very webby. Okay? And when you leave those little gaps in the chenille, like I did, it kind of helps to wedge in the hackle. And then I'm going to come up to the front here, and I'm just going to tie that off just like we did our chenille. I'm going to kind of put a little pressure on it, trim it off. There you go. And if you want to, you can be done. Okay? So I could right now just put a head on here and be finished. Okay? I am going to hold this in right where I want it, hold it tight, wrap this in. I'm going to cut my quill, and now I'm going to advance my thread up to right about where the hook eye is. And if your hackle's long enough, you can do this with your hands. And every time I make a wrap, I'm going to just like the barber kind of grabs your hair before he cuts it, I am going to persuade these hackle fibers to go backwards towards the tail, as you can see. Now I'm going to wrap this pretty close to the eye because I'm going to show you another trick. I'm going to tie that off, trim it, and tie my head. Now when I do my head, I'm going to pull this stuff back a little bit. And I'm not going to do a huge head. Remember, I'm doing red, so that indicates that I've got some weight on here. And by the way, when you do your lead weight, you also can attach your lead. I say lead was lead free. And you can wrap it around the hook shank. Now I'm just going to do some half hitches. Now I just did those with my hand. But if you remember once before, I taught this in another video, you can use your bodkin and just wrap this around your bodkin and just pull it off of the bodkin. It's a big eye, so I gotta persuade it around there. That's going to do a bunch of half hitches. Now eventually in this fly tying session we are going to whip finish, and we're going to use a whip finishing tool. So I can show you how to do it with your hands. But God made glue. We want to get on the water, so we're just going to expect that our glue is going to work. Here's our head cement glue. Put that in there. You can see I got a couple feather barbules that are kind of in there. I'm putting a little glue on them. Look, man, I want to catch fish, okay? I mean, I can spend a lot of time tying really nice flies, but if I've got an hour and I need to tie a dozen, this is the way I'm doing it. So that's a poor man's woolly bugger. We got tail, body is chenille, hackle is this Schlappen material. In this case we did a collar, which was another piece of hackle up here, and then we did a red head. Done on Tiemco 300. This is a size 4.